Hey, welcome to Menopause Matters, the podcast. I am Jeanne Andrus, your host, and I have today with me Jill Angie. Jill is, let me read this off so I don't get it wrong. Jill Angie is a fat running coach who helps women over 40 start running safely and confidently. She is also the author of several books on running, has a podcast on running, and is my personal running coach. So, um, while I actually have the same certification as Jill does in this area, um, I rely on Jill's advice to keep me running safely and happily and creating the community that keeps my runners in my life. So I'm super excited to have Jill to talk with us today. Hello, Jill.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's such a great time, a great pleasure to have you with me. Um, so today, I want us. We could talk about all kinds of things, running crazy relay races through the woods in the middle of the night, running in Alaska. There's all kinds of things we could talk about, but today I want to ask you just one question. I want to know your best tip for helping for a woman to start an exercise program, whether it's running or walking or weightlifting or cycling or spinning or whatever, when she's in these menopausal years, which may have her feeling kind of icky or uncomfortable in her body, and just getting out there and starting. So let's talk about that.
Okay. So I think that one of the biggest mistakes that new exercisers make when they start any routine is thinking that they have to do all the things and be perfect at it. And so my number one tip for anybody getting started is let go of perfection, start small, right? And just first of all, let yourself suck at it. Like,
Which may be a lifelong thing since I apparently still suck at running.
oh my gosh. But honestly, like when you give yourself permission to do something and not be great at it and still do it, it's really powerful, right? Like, first of all, it helps you build up that habit of consistency. And we don't get better at things just by doing them one time. We get better at things by practicing them over and over and over again. And so when you allow yourself to suck at something, give yourself permission to keep coming back and doing it over and over again, even if like it seems like you should be better at it by now. You are building the habit of consistency, and consistency breeds confidence. It helps you shift your identity. It like everything kind of spreads from there. So, honestly, that is like the best piece of advice that I could give to anybody starting whatever the exercise program is just start small and allow yourself to suck at it.
And I'm going to add one thing to that. Do it.
Yes, and do it. Yeah.
Yeah, just get out there and do it. You know, I used to teach a class in beginning running, and you're right. The whole thing was do the thing several times a week and just do as much as you can without killing yourself. And with
Yeah.
with running in particular, I always said stay within your breathing. So
Yeah.
you just always be able to breathe because breathing is a really good thing,
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
awesome thing. But um so the consistency really was the big thing, and it builds confidence and it
Mhm.
builds the ability to say to yourself, yes, I'm doing something for me. I'm doing something that's getting me better. Um, so, Jill, how
Yeah.
long have you been running?
I have been a runner. I started actually deliberately running on purpose. I mean,
Not
because I
from
was
bears.
right. Well, when I was in high school, I was on the tennis team and they would always make us run. And And I absolutely hated it, but I don't know, 1997, so I was probably I just was it 97? I don't know. I was like at late 20s, early 30s, and
Okay.
I was like, "All right, I'm going to start running because I need to lose weight," right? The classic the classic
Obviously,
reason.
yeah.
Yeah, and I was not I mean, I would lose 10 pounds and gain 10 pounds and, we all know the story, but, I wasn't really successful in losing weight and keeping it off, but I did really fall in love with running, and so it's been 25 years,
Wow.
and, yeah, and I think it's running has changed for me over the years, and of course, as I hit menopause and as I age, how I show up for my running is changing. I'm still, I'm still running, I'm still loving it, but I've made some modifications as I've gotten older to make sure that I can continue to run for the next 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so yes, I was gonna say I want to just kind of make one point here, and that is that you teach a very gentle method of
Mhm.
running, which is
Yeah.
interval running.
Mhm.
And can you say a little bit about how interval running works?
Yeah. So it's basically you run some and then you walk some, but it's not a lot of people think that that means you run until you're exhausted and then you walk until you feel better and then you start running again and then you run until you're exhausted. And I actually teach it differently. I teach it so that you're running for very specific periods of time, and it might be 30 seconds, it might be a minute, it might be 2 minutes, depends on the person. And then you walk for a specific period of time, and you actually just kind of like repeat, you go back and forth between that run and that walk.
Mhm.
And the whole point of that is to make sure that you're not completely tiring yourself out on the run interval, because then you've got, then you're able to kind of walk quickly on the recovery and be ready to run again. And so it's interesting because it actually makes a lot of people faster, which it sounds so counterintuitive, but almost every single one of my clients that has come to me and said, I can run a 5K without stopping and I can't get any faster. And I say, well, let's just try these intervals. And lo and behold, they're shaving 2 minutes off their time, 3 minutes off their time. So it really is kind of magical. And especially if you're a woman over 40, especially if you're, experiencing menopausal symptoms, if you're starting to experience arthritis in your joints, which I have in all of my joints at this point. It's delightful.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
The run walk method is gentle but also effective, and it's an amazing workout. And yeah, I like that's one of the shifts that I've made as I've, kind of past the age of 40. I started doing intervals all the time. And I think that's what has allowed me to continue running and, not have problems with my knees and all of that.
That's wonderful. So I think a lot of what we're talking about here is making sure that your exercise falls within where you are and simply takes you
Yeah.
forward a little bit at a time consistently.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
is super advice. I think it's super advice for anyone. And Jill, tell people where they can find you and what you might be offering right now that is super for women who want to get started in this kind of run walk program.
Yeah, so you can find me at on Instagram at Not Your Average Runner, on Facebook at Not Your Average Runner. You can find my podcast wherever podcasts are distributed, and it's called the Not Your Average Runner podcast. I'm super clever like that. And then my website is simply notyouraverage runner.com. And I do actually have a free kind of starter guide, I call it a running start guide. And I think the website for that is notyouraverage runner.com/running start. I probably should know that by heart. But also if you go to my website, notyouraverage runner.com, there should also be a link right there as well.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here today and uh, get out there and keep running.
Yeah. Thank you for